Hi there, this is Daz from Warcradle.
I'm Stuart, hello.
Hello there, and today we're going to be doing a video that's going to have a closer look at some of the rules for Wild West Exodus. In this video, we're going to be looking at the rule Take One for the Team in particular, and how that affects shooting and combat.
Sounds great. Should we have a look at shooting first?
Cool. I mean, the basic principle for taking one for the team is it's a way of getting your character out of a dangerous situation. So what we've got here, a little bit of a setup. So we've got Wyatt Earp, and he's going to be taking a shot at Jesse James. So not a great situation for Jesse to be in, bearing in mind that Wyatt has a piercing -4 gun. So the way our Take One for the Team works, Wyatt declares Jesse as the initial target of his attack.
So taking one for the team is a fortune-based ability where a character or a unit that has access to fortune, either their own fortune or through having using large S, which their boss might have. They get to spend fortune, and what that means, but it's the model that's being, or the unit that's being targeted by the attack that is spending the fortune. It's not the unit that is jumping in the way, because taking one for the team is basically represents a sort of like your right hand man, or your loyal servant, or even just a member of the line infantry, or whatever, that's been kind of sort of inspired. They see that their commander is in serious trouble, he's about to get shot, leaps in the way to save them. But it's the fortune, the luck, for want of a better word, is being spent by the model being saved, not the model that's doing the saving.
Absolutely. I mean, in a great example here, these attack dogs would be programmed to jump in the way of shots for Jesse and take one for the team. So breaking that down, if we are declaring a shot with Wyatt against Jesse, so Jesse is nominated as the initial target.
Yes.
So normally what would happen is you'd roll your dice, bullets would fly, things would explode and stuff would die. But in this instance, what we're going to use is the Take One for the Team rule to try and pass that rule off. Now, as you've explained, Jesse has the large S rule. And he has a pile of fortune of his own.
Yes.
So what he's going to do now is spend that fortune to pass the initial target tag over to a different model. Like you said, he will be diving in the way of the shot, or alternatively, picking up a construct and putting it in front of the bullet. So that's a really simple concept. So as we've got here, these guys are definitely within the 3 inches required to use the Take One for the Team. So Jesse spends the fortune, he can pass that wound off to this dog, or he can pass that off to that one.
So in our example here, the attack, so looks like Wyatt Earp. So Wyatt Earp has already rolled, he's already made his shoot, so he's rolled to hit already, so he's done his aim check. And he's rolled to hit, has he, to pick that initial target? So this is a really, really clear point. Okay. So you must use the Take One for the Team rule before the dice are rolled. So the player who is using Wyatt Earp in this instance has said, okay, so Wyatt is going to shoot Jesse.
Absolutely.
And that's the point of the rule.
And that's that key with the rule is the initial target.
Right.
So Jesse will be the initial target, but before those dice are rolled, so obviously if you're playing someone quick, you need to get in there quick and shout this rule out that you're going to take one for the team, and that interrupts that process. So he declares a shot, initial target, Jesse dives in and spends that fortune before the dice are rolled. So in that instance, it's a bit of a gamble, because the shot might have missed anyway.
Absolutely.
But in certain circumstances, you just don't want to take that risk. So the initial target's declared. Jesse is now going to spend that point of fortune to pass that initial target tag off to a model within 3 inches.
Yes.
So we're all good so far.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So in this instance, there's no problem. The dogs are eligible to have that passed over. The fortune spent. This dog is now the initial target. Wyatt has to carry that shot out against that model.
Absolutely.
No issues with that so far.
None.
Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. So this is where it got good. So what we've encountered is some questions on our Facebook groups and at events and so on. So what about range? So in this instance, we're set up pretty close. We can see that they're all in range of each other. But let's just say, for an example, Wyatt's pistol only had an 8-inch range on it.
Yes, and Jesse is...
And Jesse, let's say, for example, he's 8 inches away. Okay. So if we go back to that initial sort of demonstration, so he's going to declare this guy as the initial target. So Jesse is the initial target. He will spend his fortune to pass that shot off to the dog and make the dog the initial target. Okay, but that's where we have a problem. So the distance between the dog and Wyatt is actually over 8 inches.
Yes.
So what that does is that bucks the normal targeting rule.
It does.
And that will make sense so far.
It does.
So, easiest fix for this one is just to follow those basic rules of the game. So if the dog is not in range of that shot, then the dog cannot be declared as the object of take one for the team.
That's right. So the intent of the rule was always that it was designed to be a model that is essentially jumping in the way, or is kind of pushing Jesse aside.
He's not using the force to redirect a shot in any way, shape, or form.
Nor is the dog. So in our example here, nor is the dog now getting a free sort of 4 or 5 inch move to move in front of Jesse. That's not how that works. So it being a valid target is essential on how that rule works. So what it would mean is, because bear in mind you can pre-measure in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what it means is, before you even having to spend the fortune, not only are you measuring your 3 inches to make sure that a model is within range of you to potentially take one for the team, but also you're checking that model is also a legal shooting target. It's also within range of the attack to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth checking, because if your opponent's got fortune, then that's something you're going to have to take into consideration, that initial target is going to move.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. Check the range to your target, and then check the range to any potential models that could use that take one for the team rule. Definitely. So in that instance, the basic targeting rules, range rules, and everything for the game, they look after it.
Yep.
Look after it completely. So as we've just demonstrated, if the range was 8 inches, neither of these dogs would be eligible to have that take one for the team rule used.
So Jesse takes it in the face.
So Jesse gets it in the face. That's not a good thing, because Jesse usually puts it straight back at you, but in that instance, Jesse would be shot. All making sense so far?
Absolutely.
Superb. So where it gets slightly trickier is when you move into the realms of combat.
Okay.
But it's not tricky as in to carry out the rule, it's just making sure you're doing things at the right stages. So if we look at the charge rule next, okay, so we've got combat action. So Wyatt is going to declare Jesse as the initial target of his charge action.
Yep.
And this is where some people have maybe got a little bit confused. Now, Jesse is the initial target of the charge action. So what we would do, we'd check the range. He would probably need to focus that charge or dash it. But as he gets into combat, what we've noticed that some people are doing is they're using the take one for the team rule right now. Because
before an attack's been made.
The reason being is it clearly states that he is declaring Jesse as his initial target. And what people are seeing is the words initial target, which is then triggering that take one for the team reaction.
Not the word attack.
Not the word attack. So in this instance, you would not be able to use take one for the team to kind of mysteriously redirect Jesse into that model, or Wyatt in this instance.
Or because the other one is, it's basically shenanigans. What it could also mean is then that, so say in terms of his charge and his distance that he would be able to get into engage a model, if Jesse was to palm it off, say he was to palm it off on the one behind him, well then potentially he's not even going to be able to reach him.
Yes. So you've gone through that whole process of, I'm going to charge and smash that guy's face in. Oh, wait a minute. Somehow the distance between us has stretched and I can no longer make it.
As I've randomly decided I'm going to charge a dog rather than...
Yeah. So obviously we want you to have control over your own models and not bizarre rules that make them act in ways that they wouldn't. So in this instance, take one for the team may not be used at this point because no attack has been declared. The charge move, that's that bit done.
And the rulebook does talk about attack, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It uses the word very specifically, attack. And as we know, although charge is a combat action, the attack doesn't come from the movement. The attack comes from the free strike that you are given off the back of a charge action.
I agree. I think if it said action rather than attack, then
that would be fine.
Completely fine. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. So we'll move on to the next bit. So once again, we've got Wyatt who's about to lay the smackdown on Jesse. Now,
absolutely.
You'd probably want to take one for the team at this point because Wyatt's got a piercing -4 pistol again that he can use in close combat. So that's
stick it in under Jesse's chin.
Under the chin, yeah. So that's a painful situation. But once again, we're going to follow the basic rules of close combat. So as we move into combat, Wyatt's got a couple of weapons he can use, but the basic one would be his ass baton.
Yep.
Now, because that's got a range of 1 inch.
Yes.
So where the charges end, he's now in combat range. And once again, using the rule of combat, because that is a 1 inch range, take one for the team would not be able to pass that to the two dogs there.
Because the dogs are within 3 inches of Jesse.
Absolutely.
But they're not within an inch of...
They're not within Wyatt's combat range.
However, Wyatt's got his Magnum Peacemaker, which is a pistol. Pistols have got the close work rule, which means that they have a range of 3 inches.
Absolutely.
In combat.
Yeah. If you want to take that huge negative.
Yeah.
For the shooting into combat rule.
Yeah.
But you're right, he does.
So that then becomes an option then for him. So he could. So for example, over here. So say we had the dogs. So they're still within. They're still within 3 inches of Jesse.
Yep.
But now one of the dogs is actually within 3 inches of Wyatt as well.
Yep.
So if Wyatt did choose to make the more powerful attack by using close work, and this could be anybody, and you mentioned about the negative for firing into combat, you might have a particular skill or something that means that that's not a problem. But,
yeah, absolutely.
So you might want to shoot Jesse because the Peacemaker is a piercing -4.
-4, so he ignores all the good stuff that keeps characters alive.
So if you do get the hit on Jesse, it's a good chance you're going to kill him.
Yes.
However, you'll know that your opponent's got fortune. You'll know that your opponent might take one for the team. So there is that, again, it's tactical choice. You've got that choice of, do I use the Peacemaker? But because of the extra range for the attack means that he could pass the hit off onto the dog. Or do I holster the Peacemaker and do I go in with the baton and just try and knock Jesse down and then shoot him in the face afterwards?
Or do all and let everybody else kill Jesse while he's down on the floor.
Well, yeah, there is that.
No, but tactically that does give you quite a difficult choice.
It does. Absolutely.
Do you go for the kill?
Yep.
Or do you want those hits to go on Jesse? Yeah.
Do you have enough action points to take the dog down and then take Jesse down?
Yep. So always thin out the crowd around the bosses before you try and strike. Definitely.
Brilliant. Oh, okay. Well, that seems, now we've talked through it, that actually seems clear.
Excellent. Good. That worked for me too.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for that. Let's have a look at another rule next. Okay, Darren, what's up next? What have you got for us? What conundrum are you going to throw our way?
So there's been some interesting debates in regards to Mettle and the Quick and the Dead.
Mettle and Quicken the Dead.
Two of my favourite rules, especially when I'm running demos, because the whole thing about the game where you don't have any wounds, when you get to that point when you're wounded and you've got that decision to make between Mettle and Quicken the Dead, it just brings you right down to the tabletop, right in there with the figures. So I absolutely love these rules.
Don't you find that most people forget Quicken the Dead even exists as a rule?
Not after you've lost a character. It's one of those things like, I won't forget it next time. No, it's... So yeah, what I've seen in some of the groups and in discussions is that there appears to be an order of doing things that seem to have risen out of nowhere.
Much like the Order.
Much like the Order themselves. So so what we're seeing people do is that you can't take a Quick and the Dead check after Mettle, or Mettle must be used first, or this, and actually it's up to you. The situation with it is, let's say you get wounded, which is going to happen in a game at some point. It comes down to you. Now, you can use Mettle to avoid that wound. You've failed your grit check, you just use Mettle and you become disordered.
Yes.
And that's a painful place to be. Once again, there's lots of painful places to be in the game, but that's a particularly nasty one for characters.
Less painful than being dead, though.
Less painful than being dead. Now, Quicken the Dead is actually a lot nicer to you because you get an unmodified quick check, and that's it. You ignore the wound if you are successful. But the downside to Quicken the Dead, it's as a downside, is you get to do that once per turn.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where you know if you do that, that's it. You've no longer got that option. So somewhere along the line, it appears that has generated an order of delivery. So some people say that this has got to happen first. Some people say that this has got to happen first.
Yeah, like with most things, we only put an order or a sequence for how effects should be resolved when it needs to happen.
Yep.
So I would always try and resolve it in the way that is the most interesting, exciting in the game.
Absolutely. I totally agree in that one. So as far as the rules go, it's up to you. If you want to go Mettle first, that's fine. Because what's effectively happening is you're taking a wound, and it's almost like there's just a pause in time there, and you decide how you're going to deal with that. So if you want to go in with Quicken the Dead first, that doesn't replace that failed grit check. No, it's not another step on. Doesn't mean you can't go back to Mettle afterwards.
No, it's not like some of the abilities where it replaces an attribute with a different attribute. You haven't replaced your grit with quick, for example. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, it's an exception. It's something that characters have by and large that allows you to get the hell out of dodge
Yeah, the magenta lurkers, the unit for the Watchers, they have Quicken the Dead, and they're not.
That's filthy.
Yes.
So that's a quick fix for this one. Mettle, Quicken the Dead. Use them in the order that you see fit. Simple as that. I like to do my Quicken the Dead first. It adds a little bit of drama to it.
That's the way I'd do it.
And then when you fail that, you gotta sit back on Mettle. You become disordered. I prefer it that way. Whatever you guys want to do with that one, do it.
Right. So the next one to talk about is what I've come to call Eternal Stun.
This is the catchy 80s song title, that one?
Yeah, Eternal Stun. Yeah, well, that was a bit David Bowie there, I apologise. So, Eternal Stun. The reason I call it that is because, so with the stun condition, one of the negative conditions, people have been reading it, and quite rightly, they've read how the rules are structured, and they've seen that under every condition, we've said at the end of that condition, where we've specified when that condition expires, or when, so it remains in play until when. There is one condition that we didn't put that on. In our defence, and in fairness, the reason we didn't put it in there was because we cover it as a general rule at the start of the conditions text.
There's a catch-all, isn't there?
There is, at the start of the conditions text. However, because we've kind of tried to be as clear as possible in all the other conditions, even where, so the general catch-all rule has been that a condition expires, so it remains in play, until the start of a unit's next activation, okay? So what's happened is, and we've got that on some of the other conditions, and we've actually specified in those kind of reminding people, but we haven't reminded people on the stun condition.
No.
So that's led to two schools of thought. One, which is the school of thought I belong to, which is that, well, okay, well then the overall rule for conditions, that must apply to it, because it doesn't say otherwise.
Yep.
There is another school of thought, though, which is where the eternal stun comes from, which is where, because it doesn't say how the condition expires specifically in the condition, therefore it doesn't expire. Never expires. It's an eternal stun case. I was saying it was. It's quite a clonk to the head. Yeah, you go to the doctor. Oh, yeah, doctor, it's ringing in my ears. I'm all stunned. When's it going to wear off? It's like, when you die. Yeah, that seems a little over the top.
Yeah. But I can see how that can happen.
Yes, I can
especially
see
in the heat of battle when you're turning pages to find rules, and
I can see why lawman players want that to happen.
Yes, there's a lot of stun there. Yeah.
They're dishing a lot of stun out.
Yep.
That isn't the case. I'm unfortunately, for all the wannabe Bass Reeves out there. It will expire once a unit is stunned, it will expire at the start of their next activation. Of course, they can wipe it out by using fortune or other
whatever
effects.
method you have of shenanigans to get rid of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. But I'm afraid that it is a one activation type of deal.